live. So I'm clicking it. It'll let us know.
My page.
Does it say? I think it should tag you on your page because we're live now. So you should have gotten an alert. You see it?
Let me see. An alert?
Because I tagged you? Or if you just go straight to your page, you should have gotten in your notifications.
Let's see. Yes. So I'm gonna.
So you can.
Okay, wait a minute. That ain't.
You see it?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to. So I just.
And then you can just click. You can just hit share, or you can just accept that I tagged you in it, and it should just be on your page.
Yeah, I accept it.
Okay, then you're good.
Okay.
You ready?
That means people on my page can see it.
Yes.
Okay.
You ready? All right. Good evening, National We. I hope everyone is doing well. It's good to see all of you after Tim, our Associate Director, took over the community hour for a couple weeks. So it is great to be back. Welcome to our Natural We Community Hour of Power. We are very excited to have Dr. Pastor James Thomas with us, who I will introduce in a minute. But first, we are going to just have a brief moment of a mindfulness breathing exercise, and then we'll go from there. So go ahead and get comfortable in your seat, chair, your bed, wherever you are. If you want, you can close your eyes. But if you just want to take a couple breaths out, and then take a breath in. And take a breath out. And take a breath in. And as you continue to breathe with breathing out and breathing in, just want to share with you a brief poem that I actually wrote today. So, conditioned identity, guarded heart, unchained memories, jaded dreams, stalled action, silent fears, awakened spirit, inspired thoughts, encouraged dreams, tenacious joy, divine purpose, intentional movement, everlasting God, ancestor strength, present faith, complete healing, total restoration, liberated life. And as we continue breathing, just going to share a little bit. I wrote that poem thinking about we as a community, thinking about our people, and the time that we're in. So many times we feel like our dreams, our passions, and things are halted or stopped, and they don't have to be. We are not our experiences. We are a great, mighty, resilient people with God on our side, with the strength of our ancestors, and we just have such a divine purpose and power, and I just want to encourage everyone that no matter what has gone on, we are more than well. We continue to be more than well. And we continue to rise and thrive and live and breathe and do all that we are called to do, that we are destined to do. And so I just hope that is an encouragement to you as we move forward. So just take one more big breath out and one more breath in. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. And we will go from there. All right. So Today we have with us Dr. Pastor James Thomas. He is a husband of 28 years, a father of four. All four of his kids are in the university. Born and raised in Champaign, Illinois, whose parents are from Mississippi. He, in the late 80s, he actually led a protest against the Champaign Police Department in Illinois. And he is a member of Black Lives Matter. He is a member of the community and clergy for Black Lives in San Fernando Valley, one of the organizers. He is the pastor of Living Community Church of Los Angeles, and he is also one of the lecturers in the Pan-African Studies Department at Cal State Los Angeles. And so we welcome you. We are looking forward to just a wonderful conversation hour with you. I call him Brother James. We have had many different types of conversations in the Pan-African Studies office at Cal State LA. But with Dr. Pastor Thomas, and if you could just briefly just share, add on to what I've said about you, and then we'll go into talking about your role and your actions as far as going to some of the marches and protests, and then this virtual village that you were talking that you do with your church.
Well, I gotta first say that I have to acknowledge you. The work that you're doing. It is wonderful to have you as a colleague at Cal State LA, and we're excited about the time in which they will confer that doctoral degree on you. I'm going to forever keep that in front of you because you're a brilliant young lady. And, we are just so excited about not just what you are doing, but the trajectory for your life and what you will do and what you will accomplish. And so it is my sincere pleasure to be able to come on your show today and have a conversation.
Thank you.
One of the many conversations that we've had with one another, and just listening to your poem, I was just thinking to myself, God, Black folks are just brilliant. I mean, I see why they hate us. I do. I would hate us too. We got too much talent. It's got too much going on. I understand. As my daughter says, if you don't have haters, you don't exist. But I just want to say, it's my sincere pleasure, and it's good and wonderful to see you. I miss you.
I know. I miss you too. I miss our talks.
I know we were in the office all the time talking. So anyway, that's enough of the reminiscing. Let's get down to the business at hand. You don't.
Although I will still say you still owe me a salad and steak. I'm just gonna put that out there.
and we will make sure that happens.
Thank you.
And I know you don't have me on your show because I'm so handsome.
Ma'am, my brother, our people are just great and handsome, all of them, but I'm gonna let your wife of 28 years continue to go ahead and tell you that.
She's the only one that thinks so. So anyway, that's what I told the young people on my Bible study last night. I said, "You're not on here because you're so pretty. You're not on here because you're so handsome. I need to hear from you." And so, anyway, thanks for having me. I certainly do appreciate it. And so, if you hear strange people in the background, it's because they're my family.
No problem. So, how did you get from Illinois to California? What happened there?
Oh, you would start there. That's an important place to start because that's an important place to start because I came to California because I was doing a lot of organizing against the police department. Um, and I was appointed a commissioner where my job was literally to look into, police harassment complaints. And so I did that very well. And what I got in response to my great work was threatened, and, and a whole lot of pushback from police and others that ultimately led my mother to say to me, these folks will kill you. I think you should move to California where your brother is. And so, of course, I'm from Champaign, Illinois. Moving to Los Angeles, that's kind of a no-brainer for me. So it was kind of a perfect situation. But there was an aspect of me that was saddened because, I'm not afraid of anything. And so, but the reality is that the other part, the part that I neglected to mention was my mother said to me, I don't want to go to another one of my son's funerals. That's what she said. Mm. That's what got my attention. I'm like, I'm so out of here. So that's how I came out here. And I found myself, I don't even know if it was 6 months after coming here, sitting in front of Rodney King and dealing with the whole 92, civil unrest and that, that issue. And so I never, ever considered any of this stuff that I was doing activism. I'm from Champaign, Illinois, very small town. I really didn't even know what that was. I just felt like this is what is right, and that my responsibility, as a minister is to push for what I believe is right. And so that's what kind of led me out here. And I've been doing a lot of that work ever since. And the most recent manifestation of that has been my work with Black Lives Matter, which again, I never set out to do work with Black Lives Matter. I felt like there was a need. It was more out of a knee-jerk kind of reaction to the way I sensed people were treating women in the movement. And so I felt like as a pastor, I didn't want to be a part of that. And, it's not just enough to say, I don't like it. How can I contribute? I'm a pastor. I can affirm, female leadership. And so for 4 years, that's kind of what I've been doing, hanging around on the peripheral. I've been apart for a long time. I've never really spoke on behalf of Black Lives Matter until recently. And so most people think I just joined. No, that was never, my desire. It was to be in support of Black Lives Matter leadership, and Clergy for Black Lives is a further extension of that. It is, a group of clergy who've come together who were saying, we're going to support, the Black Lives Matter movement, and we're going to support the demands that Black Lives Matter has made on behalf or makes on behalf of our community. And so it's kind of an extension of all of that.
So the Clergy for Black Lives is an umbrella of Black Lives Matter?
Is it an umbrella? I don't know if I would, an umbrella, it is, I would say it's an out. I am a member of Black Lives Matter, but there are some clergy who may not be. So it is an ally organization, like White People for Black Lives, Latinx folks for Black Lives, Asians for Black Lives. There's a lot of ally groups. I happen to be both a member and one of the organizing founders of Clergy for Black Lives. And so, and if you remember when I presented at the NCBS, I presented on Clergy for Black Lives. I was Sankofa Christian.
Remember, I was presenting on African liberation theory the same time you were presenting, so I missed yours.
You were, but that's what I was. Was that a couple of years ago?
Mm, what year is this? That was 2018.
It was
I
2018.
think, was that New Orleans?
Yeah, it was in New Orleans. It was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, and so I was presenting on Sankofa Christianity, and so my point was is that Christianity is not a white man's religion. It is connected. It was born out of Africa, stolen, then brought back and used to enslave African people. But and then talking about the need for a bridge between the church and Black Lives Matter, and Clergy for Black Lives was to perform that bridge. And here we are, 2 years ago, and it is actually a reality. And so we've done some wonderful work. We intend to do more, as you know. Part of that work has been demanding that Dr. Melina Abdullah be the dean of the new Ethnic Studies College. That's something that Clergy for Black Lives wanted to take up. Because it was just the sense that this is a slap in all Black folks' face. I mean, you can't send, letters out saying Black Lives Matter, and you know what you've been getting from Cal State, and then at the same time, deny at least a legitimate interview with one of the founders at the university where it was founded, with students and faculty and community. And so
So for those who don't know what's going on at Cal State LA, if you could kind of just give it some of the context, and moving forward into the and actually, was it last week or the week before, Clergy for Black Lives actually went to the university?
Yeah, there was a press conference. The CEO of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, who is also a member of Clergy for Black Lives, was extremely disturbed by what had happened, in terms of, not just the fact that, Melina Abdullah was not given an opportunity to really compete in a real way for the deanship, but that to do something like this at this particular moment in time, while the Black Lives Matter movement is a global phenomenon, was just a slap in the face to all Black people, and so, especially since this is ethnic studies, and school will be starting soon, and we won't have a dean.
So for those, I'm going to pause you real quick. So for those who don't know, at Cal State Los Angeles, there's a new college formed. It's the College of Ethnic Studies. The Pan-African Studies Department at Cal State LA was majorly involved. Dr. Ratcliffe, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Dr. James Thomas. There was some other department. What'd you say?
And Dr. Lawson Bush.
Dr. Lawson Bush. Stacey Mitchell. The Pan-African Studies was all in, really forging and getting the College of Ethnic Studies on campus, as well as some of the other departments and allies on campus. James, you can share those. Their names escape me at the moment. But now we're in where the college is going to happen. School starts next month, and there is a search for the dean. And Melina Abdullah was not selected as one of the candidates to be interviewed for the deanship. Just to give some background. Go ahead, James.
And so it's Asian American Studies, Indigenous, and Latinx and Chicano Studies. So it's the traditional ethnic studies program. So all of us came together, had been meeting. I was kind of a Johnny come lately. I was a part of those initial meetings when Dr. Abdullah was the chair, but when they actually formalized the steering committee, I came a little late, and I came in and was asked to participate based upon my ability to engage the community. And so wonderful plans were made. There was discussions about having, in order so that everyone would feel included. There were discussions about having a rotating deanship where, you know, each department would have an opportunity to seat someone as dean. The students would be involved in selecting who the deans would be. And all of that just seemed to have gone south. And the university did a traditional search, and I participated in that process. I got a chance to hear all of those candidates' interviews, and none of them, you know, and this is no discredit to them, you know, in terms of who they are, but none of them had a real background in ethnic studies. None of them did. There was one who we could all settle for, but that it turns out that that person wasn't even offered the position when the other two turned it down. And so now that, and I had initially gone to Dr. Abdullah, myself and another colleague, and I won't name them, and I literally said to her, you really need to apply. She didn't want to. She had no intention of applying. And her response to me was, they'll never choose me. That's what she said. They'll never choose. And I said, well, you know, first, and I said, well, you know, understand something. This is not about you, and it's not about them. This is what I believe God wants. I don't know any other way to put it. You know, and I'm Christian and she's Muslim, so I don't know any other way to put it. And so that's what I said. I said, that's what I believe. I said, I believe this is God's plan for the next stage of your life. And she said, well, I guess if you put it like that, you know, and I said, she said, I'll give you my commitment, I'll apply. And so she did. And so that's how this whole thing started. And so, and she did, she's also said that I wouldn't want to be dean of any others. I don't want to be a dean. I want to be the dean of the second ethnic studies college in the country, because she wants to make sure that it stays true to the principles of what ethnic studies is about, which is about the struggle. It's about the community and the faculty and the students coming together, struggling for what's going to make for a better life, a liberatorial experience for people of color and oppressed people in general. That's what ethnic studies is about. It's bottom up, not top down. And so there are forces that see this, particularly at this particular hour, as an opportunity to push a diversity and inclusion, you know, kind of perspective. I don't need anybody to include me. You know, I need folk to celebrate, and that's
so right. So how does clergy for Black Lives end up on campus, you know, protesting?
Well, when this happened, when this happened, you know, you have, you know, you have, you know, one of the oldest civil rights organizations, national organizations in the country, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, who is a part of Clergy for Black Lives, who was aware of what had happened. And so his first instinct was, we need to file a formal complaint. Organizations like SCLC and the NAACP, you know, you can file a complaint with them and then they investigate that complaint. Well, that process, that official process, did not start in large part because as a faculty person at Cal State LA, I'm saying, surely this is an oversight. Of course, there are certain people who had concerns about Black Lives Matter, but clearly there aren't any people who don't understand and who aren't supportive of that mission today. And so it was kind of an opportunity to, to extend, an olive branch. And I called the president myself, and I was hoping that he would call me back. He hasn't called me back. I'm not upset about that, but what that did was it triggered, a it triggered a whole another response that I personally felt like did not have to be. I'm still holding up hope. I'm still holding up hope that all the parties involved would understand that this isn't just about Melina Abdullah. Melina Abdullah is one of the demands on a list of about 15. Mm-hmm. Cal State LA and what happened to her represents, and you know this as well as I do, a number of anti-Black experiences that we've had on campus that have gone undealt with, that we've had to just suck up, and for this to happen at a time when there is a heightened sensitivity around Black folks, it's like, now, wait a minute, this is a little bit too much for us to abide. And so and again, the minister in me is saying, we're going to talk about this. They're going to understand how important this is, and it's going to be all good. And we're going to celebrate, that President Covino and his administration are embracing, this attempt to make the world a better place, because this whole mantra of Black Lives Matter is not just Black people singing this song. It's everybody across the globe. And so that is still my hope. That's still my prayer. But at the end of the day, just as a Black person, and I think this is what we've been hearing, across the country. Folks across the country have been, weighing in on this. This just can't, under any circumstances, can this be okay? Not under any circumstances. Which is not what I wanted to come on and talk about, but since we're talking about it, we may as well talk about it.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I already knew that we were going to probably talk about a few things. There's so much. And one of the things that struck me, you're saying the minister in you is like, we're going to talk about it, things like that. But I've seen the minister in you as well. And most of the time, when I see the minister in you, you're like, if you believe in God, then you must know that Black Lives Matter, and this is what you must do. And you talk about it, and then you bring in, our students, and young people, and so one of the questions that actually just came in is, what can young people do to support progress in the Black Lives Matter movement? But I'm gonna kind of expand on that and say, what can young people do in terms of the clergy for Black lives as well?
That is a wonderful question. One of the reasons that I am the way that I am is that I listen to students. I listen to young people. I listen to people that some folks dismiss. It doesn't help that I'm forced to, because I got 4 of them in my house, but and so what I would say is, I come from the generation of, be seen and not heard. Don't get in grown folks' business. That's the generation that I've come from. I never really abided by that, my mother would say, and my father would say. I never abided by that, but that's what they wanted. That was their dream.
I believe that.
Yeah, that was their dream. And so what I would say in terms of how can young people get involved, I think demand that your voice be heard. And demand often sounds like a strong term, like I'm going to make you. No. It doesn't mean I'm going to make you. It just means continue to say it over and over and over and over and over again, and eventually you'll be heard. And it's not, it's not I'm going to make you do. I think people get confused when we talk about, in terms of Black Lives Matter, when we talk about demands. I've had people say, "Who are you to demand anything from me?" I'm not demanding anything from you. I'm letting you hear what I'm demanding for my life. This is not about anybody's capacity to do something that I want them to do. I am letting you know that all of my energy and all of the essence of who I am wants this to happen. And therefore, it's not an ask, it's got to be a demand, because asking is passive. What I'm saying is that I'm willing to do whatever is necessary because I believe that this is what God wants. I mean, I wouldn't be doing it. I mean, I'm risking a whole lot by, speaking out like this, but I've done it before. I came here the same way. And so at the end of the day, what young people can do is join your voices with folks with gray in their beard, and don't think that there is this huge generation gap. A lot of the gap is we just don't understand y'all, because it's not the life that we've lived, and you all don't understand us, and I think the biggest thing that you don't understand about us is, we don't have a lot of patience after you get a certain age. And so we have lived our lives a lot of times, and we can't mix our words, and we don't necessarily choose our words in the best ways that we could. We just let her rip sometimes,
The filter is gone.
Huh?
The filter is gone.
and so what we are always mindful of is, like my wife told my kids the other day, when y'all have kids, don't raise them the way we raised y'all, to always have something to say, to always have an opinion. Raise them the way our parents raised us. You need to listen to what I say as long as you're in my house, and we don't need to have a debate on every single thing. So I think young people think that is disrespectful to them. It's not meant to be that way. It is just simply acknowledging what was normative for us, and it is us repeating some of the things that our parents said. I mean, it's shocking. Oh my God, was that my dad or me? Did I actually just say that? And so a lot of it is that, and it's not to be taken personally. And so I would just say, one of the things that we can all learn is to not take things so personal. We don't know where folks are coming from, and that's a long way to say, what you can do is to be present everywhere you are. Never show up someplace. Bless you. Never show up someplace without being present, which means don't sit in a meeting and have nothing to say. You have something to say. You have something to contribute. Maybe no one in the meeting will like it. So what? Who cares? You still have something to say, and you never, ever know. And so, young people are often nervous trying to figure out what to say, trying to figure out how to say it, not wanting to offend. How do you say something to people with gray in their hair and you think they're totally wrong, but they have all this gray around their face, and they are dripping of wisdom, but they're totally wrong? You know what you say? With all due respect, brother with the gray around your face, you're totally wrong. That's what I think. That's what I believe. And then you can have a discussion. Now, some people will be offended by that and upset. So what? Those are not the people that you necessarily want to spend a lot of time with. Some people until you get to where I am, you can't tell me nothing. There are people who are like that. And so those are the folks that you say, okay, well, God bless you, and we love you, bless your heart, and you keep moving. But there are people who will say, you know what? You have a point. Let me hear what you have to say. And those are the ones.
And one of the things that you're getting at, and our associate director is on, he said, join your voices with folks with the gray barrier likes it. And I'm sitting with that because, thinking about Natural Week, we actually are intentionally make sure that it's intergenerational. Our board is intergenerational. Our shows are intergenerational. And one of the not really a mantra, but in Glory by Common and Jay Legend, but I listened to Common and Yolanda Adams version. He said it takes the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. And I always grab on to that. And I know that I'm fortunate to have been around so many elders who are also activists. And I'm not calling you an elder, although you're almost there.
No,
But what I am
there.
okay.
Y'all just keep me young. That's all.
But I think it's so important. You know, you started off this hour talking about how you had to move from your hometown because, you know, to make sure that you didn't get killed by the police that you're protesting against. And so a lot of times, some of us who are younger, we talk about, oh, that was in the past, as if it was so long ago, when really it wasn't that long, because we can sit here and have conversations with those who were, who remember that. You know, sometimes I'm with my nieces and nephews or students, and I'm like, well, I've been the age that you have been already. And so, you know, there are some things that I can talk to you about. You know, I've been part of the Let's Storm the Academic Senate. You know, let's storm the GE curriculum committee meeting and things like that at my time when I was an undergrad and things. And so it really takes being able to have those conversations and strategize. And, you know, there's nothing really new under the sun. So revolutions have happened, you know, protests have happened. What can we learn from those who have been in the struggle already so that we can continue to push it forward? The movement didn't just start. It's been going on, right? Vincent Harding talks about the river. The river is the struggle for Black freedom. The river is Black people. The river is Black freedom and Black voices and Black liberation. And it's been going on. It's continuing. How do we continue to push it forward with our energy, you know, with the young folks' energy, while having the wisdom of our elders who are still there, who also have the wisdom of those who came before them because they sat at their feet, and going from there. And so I think it's really important, especially when you also start thinking about the role of the Black church. You know, in a time when, you know, for some, the Black church is being criticized. Well, here you are as a minister who has actually gotten criticism from congregants for being in Black Lives Matter.
Oh, absolutely. And I will say, you know, and I'll expand, you know, we don't just need young energy. We need young brilliance. See, because one of the things that is for certain, you all don't just have energy. You bring Black brilliance and Black excellence to the table. And some of that Black brilliance and some of that Black excellence has been supported and even promoted. That's something that's unfamiliar to us. See, if we attained Black brilliance or Black excellence, we did it in spite of the people who were, you know, surrounding us. Some of you are doing it with the help and with the support of a village. You see what I'm saying? You know, our village couldn't help us. You know, my mother had an 8th grade education. She couldn't help me, you know, in that particular area. But she was an activist in her own right. She wouldn't call herself that, but she was. You know, and my father was an activist in his own right. He wouldn't call himself that, and he didn't have a college degree. He didn't have a college degree either. And so, I want to be very clear. You know, yes, there is wisdom that comes along with having gray around your face, but there is also foolishness that comes along with gray. And so young people should never have to tolerate foolishness. I don't care what form it comes in. You know, and so I want to be very clear that, you know, I don't just want, you know, young people around because of their energy. I don't just engage young people because they're energetic and because they're strong. It's because they're brilliant. It's because they see another view. They see through another lens that I want to see through, especially since I'm teaching them. Especially since I'm teaching them. And so I can't, and I think you can have this happen. You can have older people who are kind of making all the decisions and bringing in young people as window dressing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I want to be very clear, that is not what I'm talking about.
Right. I'm going to ask you to put your, Dr. Professor hat on real quick, even though it's always on. One of the comments, questions that we have from our viewers is, I just lost it. How do you address critics of Black Lives Matter what do you say to critics who accuse Black Lives Matter being divisive? How do you respond to the All Lives Matter folk? And you and I have had this conversation before, but how do you address it?
Are they white All Lives Matter people? Or are they Black All Lives Matter people? It makes a difference.
Okay, so I'm gonna let him there's a delay between our Zoom and the live. So as soon as he hears that question, I'm sure he will comment and specify that. While we're waiting for that, though, I do want to say that this is so important in terms of understanding Pan-African studies as well. We both teach in the discipline, and understanding that when we say Pan-African studies, Black studies, we're not just putting the word Black or Pan-African in front of psychology. We're not just saying, oh, this is a Black voice who wrote a novel. No, there is a orientation to it, and understanding that when we say that we're in Pan-African studies, we're Black studies, Africana studies, what have you, like, it's an intellectual vanguard of the revolution. And we're talking about the intellectual vanguard of the revolution. It's not just, oh, I know these facts, but how am I using this African-centeredness that I come with to engage the community and continue to have this action? Okay, so he's clarifying. He said both. So there are some Black folk who say all lives matter.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think, and for the purpose of our time in Natural We community, talking about our folks, how do you engage our folks?
Before I take a deep breath, I have to take a deep breath first, because I want to. Well, this when people say, this is how I've looked at it. I've looked at it this way, is that all lives matter can never matter until Black lives matter. And so while people can say that all lives matter, as long as Black lives don't matter, you can't make that claim. You can't make that declarative statement. As a pastor, I would say, in the parable of the Good Shepherd, when he left the 99 to go after the one, did he not care about the 99? Were the 99 not important? No, the one was in distress and was and had the potential of being destroyed by eaten by a predator, and so being lost. And so I would also, so that's how I would, say that to, my Black, brothers and sisters. To some of my white brothers and sisters, I would say, we have to be careful that we don't enter the realm of anti-Blackness. If I say Black Lives Matter, you say that I'm not, that I don't, that I'm excluding, everyone else, but that's not at all true. When we hear other communities who say that they're, in other words, if you think, this is the best way to put it, if you think that when I say Black Lives Matter, that I mean that nobody matters except Black people, then that's anti-Blackness. Just as if when our Jewish brothers and sisters say that they are protecting, they are fighting against anti-Semitism. You know, when they're lifting up, like when I pray for my brothers in Israel, and the Bible says, pray for the peace of Israel. If you think that when I'm praying for the peace of Israel, that I'm not praying for anybody else, then that's anti-Semitism. You know, and so that's anti-Semitism. And so what we're dealing with is anti-Blackness that exists within Black folks and white folks alike. And so that is why when Black people start lifting up the saying anything positive about who they are, you know, I got that from my algebra camp. My algebra camp is a culturally based algebra camp. We unapologetically teach all things Black. It is a mixture of Pan-African studies and math. That's what we do. It is not exclusively Black, it is predominantly Black. And so people will say, well, isn't that racist? I mean, why are you just, you know, and the reality is people just are not comfortable with Black people not, you know, apologizing for being Black and for speaking Black. And so it makes them uncomfortable. You know, when I say, you know, if I say, oh, I love Black people. Well, you don't love white people? You know, but that's anti-Blackness that makes you think that. You know, I can say specifically those, if I say, oh, I love my wife, does that mean that I hate all other women? No, you know, and so this is what, this is a very big, it's a very important problem, but it's one that I don't necessarily, and I gotta say, I don't spend a lot of time trying to, you know, talk to people about All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. I really don't, because I don't understand how folks can't get that. You know, I really don't, except for people feel uncomfortable with Black people advocating for themselves. We always have to have some other group advocate for us. You know, that's one of the bittersweet things that has to do with Black Lives Matter and the way that it is this cultural phenomenon today. You know, 6 months ago, I was considered a cultural terrorist, you know, and today, because all of a sudden, you know, white folks and brown folks and all folks are lauding that phrase, Black Lives Matter, all of a sudden, you know, we're this wonderful group, but we've always been this group. We've never changed in terms of who we are. And so a lot of this stuff, you know, is just anti-Blackness. It's just anti-Blackness.
And I think it's important to really highlight that. You know, a few months ago, you say Black Lives Matter. Oh, are you one of the Black extremist terrorists? And so, you know, I think I often think about Amos Wilson when he talked about what happens when your oppressor celebrates you. You know, what happened, and we see how Black History Month has been co-opted. We see how, you know, Juneteenth was trying to be co-opted, and you know how important it is. Huh?
Yeah, Trump introduced Juneteenth to us.
Anyway, I'm not gonna say what just popped in my mind.
No, I know.
You know, and so, you know, all around the world, people are saying Black Lives Matter. We see it being painted in streets, you know, but what is happening beyond the symbols, right? Are you saying Black Lives Matter to make it look good on your CV when you're done and you need a job? You know, how, and so I think it's important to continue to stay in communication and in contact with those who have been part of Black Lives Matter when it wasn't a trend, when it wasn't a buzzword or something to say so that you don't look or appear to be racist or not down. Because at the end of the day, your actions are also going to show where your money is in terms of what you're saying and things of that nature. And so we're running out of time, but talk about that in relation to now you have your virtual village, which I'm assuming is your algebra camp, but now virtually given COVID. I've had the privilege of hearing you talk about the algebra camp for the past, how long have we known each other now? 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah.
Starting to run together. But I've been able to see the pride and the confidence that these kids, children, young people, although you put me in the young people category, so it's a little bit confusing sometimes. Let's talk about the virtual village for a little bit.
Yeah, the thing is that the reason that we organized the algebra camp was when the statistics came out that, young people are not proficient in algebra, which means that they won't be able to access college. And so, as a church, we said, we can't do a lot of things, but we got some folks hanging around here that know a little bit about education. And so we thought that we would come together and we said 15 kids, that we don't want kids from our church because our kids will be fine. So we want other kids. So we contacted the district. We only wanted 15 kids. The district said to us, there are not 15, and we asked them for Black kids. I'm very intentional about that. That's why I got my crowd of Black people behind me. The district told us that we could not get 15 Black kids whose parents, who would participate in the program and whose parents would bring them to the program. That is actually what they said. And I said, out of the hundreds of thousands of kids, we can't get 15 because we didn't want our church kids. And so, unbelievable. So, of course, I walked out, and after a few choice words that I was told they didn't like my rhetoric. I said, no, it was my truth. It wasn't rhetoric. It was my truth. By the way, we organized to get all those people out of the district office too.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
So, and the principal, 2 principals actually.
Okay.
But we felt like we needed to do more. It wasn't just about that. We needed to do more. So at the end of the day, we said we're launching the camp, and so we did, and we were preparing for like 10 or 15 kids. 40 showed up. We don't even know how they knew. And 40 showed up, and we did not have space for them. We didn't have accommodations for them. So these same Black parents who would not bring their kids, who would not be supported, these same Black parents, without us saying anything, they went to Costco, they bought tables, and we had food for the entire rest of the 6 weeks.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And the beauty, one of the most beautiful things about the program is one of the parents involved was she is the pastor. She and her husband, they're the pastor of the largest Ugandan church in LA. And so
Okay.
so our camp is unique in that we have African nationals and we have Black folk, Black Americans. And so it's very, very interesting, but we have good conversations, and it's been very, very positive. And some of those who come, they're like fresh from the continent. I mean, they're refugees. So some of them didn't even know English. And it's so amazing to see that they would come. Like there was one young man, he came to the camp. He was in the 9th grade. He was scoring at a 3rd grade level. He's shooting through.
Oh, beautiful.
And so anyway, you know, so we just felt like we're not doing the virtually full program. We're just kind of we just want to stay connected with them. To be honest, the chancellor kind of stole our program. To be honest, you know, you know. But anyway, that's a whole nother issue. But I think the thing is that what we found is if we don't do for our people, who will? And we don't mind, you know, we have white students in the program, Latinx students, we have the entire spectrum. You know, our motto is, if you want to come in here and learn all things Black, we welcome you, you know, but we're not apologizing for being Black. And what we found is that they enjoy it probably more than we do. They really, and you know this from Pan-African Studies, you know, Cal State LA is in no way near a majority Black campus, less than 3%.
Right.
And so those students from other ethnicities, they love our courses because they're hearing about these contemporary struggles for the very first time. You know, and so that is why it's not a coincidence that when you talk about Black Lives Matter and you look at what is happening in the street, that the majority of the folks out there are not Black. But these are people who have been touched with an understanding and a perspective, you know, around the struggle for Black people, and they're comfortable with us centering. And the only point that I do want to make sure that I get in, you know, before we close, is that one of the things that we do in Black Lives Matter is we center Black people. So Black Lives Matter is never going to be anything that's taken over by anybody, because we're always going to center Black people. And the Black people that we center are the families of those whose members have been lost. And so that's just sobering and humbling in and of itself. And so that's what I think is the glue that keeps us authentic and honest and fighting, because we know that at the end of the day, we're not fighting for some political agenda, even though that's important. You know, we're not fighting for someone to be appointed to the position that they rightly deserve in terms of Dr. Abdullah. And we're not just fighting to create a free campus where Black folks can feel safe and they can flourish at Cal State LA. We are fighting for justice, and we know we can't get full justice for these families, but we can get as best a justice as we can. And so that's why we do what we do. That's why nothing is beyond the pale of what we're willing to do in terms of tactics. That is why we speak very strongly when we must. So that's why we kind of move the way that we do. And that's also why we're willing to allow anyone who's willing to center these families to be a part of this movement. You know, and most people are calling it a moment. It's not a moment, it's a movement, you know, and it's our responsibility, you know, as a people to make sure that it is a movement.
Right, and that Black Lives Matter, not just because someone was murdered. You know, our lives matter because we are here, we exist, we're being. And so, you know, Black Lives Matter when we sing, Black Lives Matter when we speak, and when we write, and when we move, and when we dance. And you know, our children, you know, they matter. They're here. You know, and so I love, you know, everything that you're doing, and that's where we, you know, support you, and excited to hear how the virtual village goes. Thank you for the work that you do and have done and will continue to do, not only in the classroom and at Cal State LA, but with the church and beyond, because it's important. It's important, and we appreciate you, and we look forward to everything. And, you know, personally, you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, more stories and more conversations. Looking forward to your Christology, your theory. I forgot the name already.
Sankofa Christianity.
Yes, Sankofa Christianity. Looking forward to
we're just going back and getting it. We're going back and getting it when it was African. That's all. We're just going back and getting it.
Oh, I'm excited for the conversation about how you're developing it. I just haven't said anything because whenever I bring it up, you bring up my dissertation with African liberation theory. So, I just kind of.
I'm gonna keep bring. Look, I'm gonna keep bring because, and this is the reason. It's not that it will give you anything. You're giving it something. You're giving the discipline something. And so I don't in any way discount any of your work, any of your intellect. Who cares about the degree? I want you to get a degree because I want you to be a Black woman with that doctorate.
And it's going to happen.
And because I know it's offensive. So I want you to offend. You know what I mean? And so, but you have the capacity to do whatever you want to do without it. That's very clear. But when people try to keep us from something, my inclination is to push hard to make sure that we get what they don't want us to have. And so, all the work that you're doing, is phenomenal.
Thank you.
And even though you say that you're not so young, you are. But your mindset.
I would say I say that in the context of when we start talking about our students, just to be clear.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I just think that but you work very hard. You have a great work ethic. And I just know that. And I just don't want you to be discouraged because getting a doctorate is very discouraging. These white folks don't want you to have it. I'm just being honest. I don't care what.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a conversation about that because
I'm just telling you, you have to fight for it. It's not something. They may pretend and they may say there may be some who do, but there's a lot of them that don't. And so I just want you to know we got you. We got
Thank you. And I feel God, and not just individually and personally, but I also feel every time we talk, you ask me not only how am I doing with the dissertation or anything, but you also ask how Natural We is doing. You participated in the video, and so it's appreciated. I'm gonna. So, do you have any other last words before I give the brief announcements and then we close?
I would just say that you are an example of why I do what I do and why I go so hard. If I know you don't think you're young, but if every young person had your drive, your intellect, your work ethic, your vision, and your determination, the world would be a better place. Folks with the gray around their face could go somewhere and sit down and enjoy life, okay? And enjoy life. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm not concerned about what people think or feel, because I know young people like you, and I know that you're worth fighting for. I know that. And so if I get some old folks that can't appreciate where I'm coming from, so what? You ain't doing nothing anyway. That's my view. That's my view. You ain't doing that anyway. You ain't doing that anyway. So that's what I just like to say is that you are the reason that we have to fight for young people. You're the reason that when we should be retiring, we have to get on the front line. When our career should be going, getting headed toward the easy chair, we still have to fight because we have to fight for young people like you. And we need to bottle it and sell it. We need to reproduce young people like you. And we know that if we're able to do that, if we're successful and able to do that, and we've been doing it, y'all been doing it in spite of, what if you did it because of? What would you be if it was because of? What would you be if you had a doctoral program that loved you and affirmed you and wanted to see you succeed as much as I do? Ain't no time.
I'd be done.
Right, you'd be done. But guess what? Keep tuning in. We're working on that too. We're working on that because sometimes the only way that we're going to have anything is we got to do it. And so my prayer is that we would bring an HBCU to the West Coast. That's my prayer. And we're going to do that. We're going to do that. And so we're going to see, we're going to leave all these other schools that cost too much money behind. And so anyway, that's, thank you for having me. Thank you, Natural We community. I appreciate your indulging me, and in any way that I can be a support, in any way that I can be a help, I'm only a phone call away.
Thank you, Dr. Pastor James Thomas. We appreciate it. Thank you for attempting to almost make me cry at this end, but I completely appreciate it and receive it. It was on time. Please believe it was on time, but we know that's how God works. Thank you to everyone who joined Natural We Community Hour of Power. And this is what it's about. You know, we strive to not only share what our people are doing in our community, but to also uplift and encourage. And I hope that you can see the love, because, you know, as much as James loves me is how much I love him. And it's just great. I love, you know, seeing what he's doing, hearing about the kids, your 4 grown kids, and how they're doing in their endeavors. And we appreciate it. So a couple of announcements. Natural We Community Feeding at New Providence Baptist Church with Project Feed the One is this coming Saturday from 11 to 1. Come get a meal. There'll be some canned goods if you are lacking food, things like that. So we invite you all to come. For those who want to know how to support the community feeding, we do have a fundraiser going on Facebook right now that will help us get supplies for the community feeding as we are physical distancing. So we don't really have a lot of volunteers on site, but that is one way that you can join and be part. And we will be back next Thursday, July 30th for Natural We Community Hour. And then after that, we are moving to Tuesday. So please stay tuned for that. And once again, I hope you all have a great evening. And remember that we are more than well. So thank you for joining and take care.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you.